Welcome to On the Porch. I'm Jane Garibay, State Representative for the 60th District, Windsor and Windsor Locks. Today, we're going to learn a little bit about the Connecticut Valley Tobacco Museum that's right here in Windsor over by Northwest Park. And we have its president, Jim Daniels, which many of you may know him from the Lions Club and the many other things that he does, but he is now president of the Tobacco Museum, and there's been a lot happening over there. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Jane. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, I've been seeing all the exciting. I've been to a couple of the events with low vision, etc. Tell people, what is the Tobacco Museum?
Well, the Tobacco Museum was started by Gordon Taylor and Luddy. They contributed money to build the archive building. They took the shed over and they put different displays in there, and it goes through the entire process of tobacco. We just had three additional items added to the museum. There was also something that was added at the beginning of this year. But it actually goes through the entire process of harvesting tobacco, planting it, and the full cycle. We have a tractor that's on display there. A lot of good things. We did grow tobacco this year, which we harvested, and that's drying in the shed. That was very interesting. So a lot of good things there.
Yeah. Well, I can remember as a kid, we all worked tobacco. We all did, and that was probably our first job. I worked for the Huntington farm, and it's quite the experience. I almost think that every young person should try a couple months at it, and our rich history. So I know there's also the low vision part of it, right?
The
Or
Windsor
Braille?
Lions in 2017 installed QR codes for people with low vision with the help of Chris Radio. And it actually is for people with low vision and also with people with print disabilities. Prior to doing that, they had put in text panels where people could read the different parts of it. That was Brianna Dunlop was the president of the board. They put that in, and basically we just made it more accessible to people with print disability and low vision.
Right. And just getting the word out. You've been great at that. I know you're working on a couple of video projects.
We are now working on a couple of projects with Win TV. One is we're going through the interviews of people who are part of the filming of Parish. I saw a preview of it and it's very interesting. I'm really excited. And it's interesting to find out the people's perspective about this when it was being filmed. We had a guy that was in the Marine Corps. He came home on leave and he was in the shed when Connie Stevens was talking to Troy Donahue in the first scene. Some interesting comments. He didn't put that in there, but he was on leave for that week. So he saw a lot of the filming of it. And then when he went back to his base in North Carolina, he saw it. He says, I was part of that. I was there. And everybody has good memories about the filming of it.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know every time I drive by that house, I think of it,
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I hope you have like an Oscar night with a preview of the movie. Are you guys?
We're actually going to preview it to people who are part of the filming. We're actually going to show the movie Parish to them first.
Right.
And anybody who has comments about the filming, we'll stop it. They can make their comments, and hopefully Howard or somebody will be there to film their comments, because I think that'll be an interesting perspective too. And after we show that, we'll show the actual documentary that Jenny did. I'm really excited about. This is something I thought about doing before I became president, and we actually could do it. There's also another project Jenny's working on in conjunction to this, but it's about actually growing tobacco and harvesting tobacco in Windsor. With some of the interviews we had with this, the museum actually interviewed 4 people who were involved with growing tobacco. It was Frank Latwinnes, trying to think who else, Melvin Brown, Lon Pelton, and somebody else who worked in the fields of tobacco, Jill Fay's sister, interviewed. It was very interesting about it. Everybody had positive comments about growing tobacco. To me, it just seems like a very terrible job.
I have to tell you, I remember my first day, and at the beginning, you would be out in the fields, right? and you would have to tie white string to the bottom. The plant was low growing, right? So at that point it was new. And you would tie it, and then you'd have to reach up and tie it to this wire. And then you'd have to snap that, like the white string you see in stores. By the time I got home, I was all bloodied because I didn't know you're supposed to tape up your hands so that you can do that. So the work at times was grueling, but we never complained, and we all like kind of enjoyed it. And all the neighborhood kids went, so you knew everybody. And so I have good memories of it also. The guys putting in those tobacco worms in the leaves. So you're sewing, and all of a sudden you grab something, and it's like, oh, gross. So yeah.
When we grew our tobacco, we could see the worms are about this big and green, and you have to look for them because they blend in with the leaf.
And they're gross when you touch them, let me tell you. I still remember,
One of the comments somebody made in the film was when they watched the girls walk out of the shed, they said they're in their makeup. Their clothes were clean. He says, we got done sewing in the shed. Everything was black on us. Our fingers were black. By no means did we even put makeup on. We're sweaty. But she said it was a very inaccurate depiction of working in the shed.
Right. But it's a movie, right? So I also remember at times it being so cold in the shed. So it was at the end of the season, and you would be sewing up the leaves, right? And it was so cold in the mornings, we'd have to wear our winter jackets. And you just don't think, but that's why you have those sheds. It keeps everything cool so it can dry, etc. But I love that you're documenting the history. It's such an integral part of so many people's lives that grew up in the tobacco, in the valley.
Right.
And the farms, and how the farms have had to adapt and change to other things over the years. And there's also a piece that certain leaves are only grown here in the valley, that they use actually on Cuban cigars. Like we export those leaves all over. Do you know?
Yep, it is. It's very sought after, but economically it was not a product they could keep doing in Connecticut because they have to. Tobacco workers are regulated by the state, what you can pay them. When you deal with a contract with the Jamaicans, from what I understand, you have to provide so many hours to them. So if there's not work in the tobacco fields, a lot of tobacco farmers will grow another crop just to keep them busy, like they'll grow pumpkins or something else, just to keep the mandatory employment time and wages that they have. Also, kids were required to be 14 before they could work tobacco, and that was regulated by the state too. It was even one of the people that were interviewed, his father owned the tobacco farm, and he wanted to play a tobacco worker on the set. He said, no, I can't, you're not 14. So
yeah, and get paid. And I understand it is pretty tough work though. I would hate to see much younger children, but at the same time, it was a good experience. I don't know why they chose the age 14, but I did it when I was 14 and when I was 15. And it was a great experience.
yeah.
So how do people, first of all, what are the hours of the Tobacco Museum? When can someone go?
It's Thursday through Saturday, 10 to 4, noon to 4 p.m. We have person there, Brian Barganier, who is the person that's in charge of the office hours. He's helped us a lot. He's done a comedy night there. He has posted different things on Facebook, our Facebook page. When he would grow the tobacco, he kind of did a blog on it. He had one plant that was dwarfed. He called it Eduardo, and that got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting process how we grew Havana broadleaf, because you could sow broadleaf like you do shade tobacco for the wrappers. And it was very interesting how that little tiny seed can grow into a stalk that's maybe about 1.25 inches in diameter and tall. Some cases it was taller than me. So it was, and that does not have to be tied like the shade does to grow up, but it was very interesting. And there's a lot of things about tobacco that I did not know, that if broadleaf gets too much water too quick, it'll dwarf and turn to seed quick. So you don't get any crop out of it. And I learned so much just working with Dwayne Adams, who is a member of our board.
Yeah, well, it must have been a tough year then, because we had a lot of rain this year, right?
Surprisingly, our crop did quite well.
That's good. You
It
have the
did better
magic.
than somebody who provided the plants to us. So it's,
Yeah. So just the right spot and yeah, and the TLC. Um, that's awesome. And if someone wants to volunteer, are there opportunities to volunteer?
yes, there could be options to volunteer. They can contact me or they can contact the museum. I would probably be the better contact, which I give you at the end of the segment. They want to
Yep.
volunteer. We need people to talk about growing tobacco, give tours. Somebody that worked tobacco, I think, would be a good candidate for that. But there's definitely opportunities for that. Um, Anybody who has had experience sewing, we did get a new sewing machine from All Night Farms that works. So next year we'd like to demonstrate that. Somebody who has experience sewing would be great. So that'd be good.
Interesting. I still sometimes have, sometimes have a dream where I can, remember tying up the plant and doing, it's kind of funny. And we used to have quotas too. And we used to like crazy. My partner a lot was a girl that I graduated high school with is Donna Potasniak, who the family lived in Windsor. And, we would just work like crazy because we wanted to make over the quota because you made more money, you know? So yeah, it's quite interesting. So at the end, yeah, Howard can put up your information at the end so that when this airs, people can contact you and that'll be good because it sounds just so interesting. And anyone that, loves history, and this is such an integral part of our town,
Right.
um, that, it's very good. So is there anything else you'd like to add, Jim?
Right now, we're working with Eastern. They're doing a grant. It's about people of color working tobacco, and they're focusing on Martin Luther King because he did work as a young man in the fields. I forgot what town he is, but we're meeting somebody from Eastern right now this next weekend. He's going to look at the archive. There's plenty of archives available with employee cards and pictures, and it's a wealth of information.
Thank
So
goodness
we do
someone
not
did.
have enough staff to do what we do. So volunteers would be really good to help us with that. And
Yeah,
we'll give them something to do.
okay. I had read something about that. Simsbury comes to mind for Martin Luther King, that's where he did, but you'll have to let us know when you find out. But yeah, it is. I know that a lot of the people, well, a lot of boys and girls from Windsor obviously worked on the farms, and they also had a lot of people from Puerto Rico at that time
Right.
coming and doing the job. So, well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this information. We encourage people to, go and see it, support it. And if you have time and love history, there's a place for you.
It's funny when Lon Pelton was interviewed, he talked about, working in the, he'd put worms in the baskets for the
Oh, yeah.
ladies sewing just to freak them out. He'd be
Frogs.
climbing in the rafters and he'd dropping things on the girl's sewing machine, drop sewing. He actually dated a Florida girl when he was working in the field. So it's very, very interesting, the different comments that we had. So
It is. And that's just a couple it's gone down. It was no longer kids. I don't know when we started, kids stopped working in the farms as much.
yeah,
I know it wasn't like really readily available for my kids. So,
right.
well, I want to thank you for everything you do because I know you're a treasurer for the Windsor Lions Club and that you do so much. And I'm so glad you've taken this task and you're helping preserve a part of our history.
Well, thank you for all you do, Jane. I really appreciate it. Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, I'll email you my contact information so that could be on the
Yep.
and then I could also email you our Facebook page if people wants to follow
Yep.
it. That'd be great.
Absolutely. That will be great. Yeah, I'll wait till it comes and I'll forward it on. And again, thank you so much.
We are going to close December 8th. We leave it open just in case somebody wants to do research from the different schools. And we're going to close around December 8th, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be manned. It'll be manned, but actual operating hours are not going to be there. So But if anybody
Okay.
wants a tour or wants access to it, just give me a call. I'll give you my contact information.
Thank you, Jim. So thank you, everybody, for watching On the Porch. Hope to see you again next week.
Thank you very much, Jane.
Bye-bye.